Welcome to another edition of the Legacy Series. I'm Jeff Nally, and our guest is Dr. Fred Whitford from Purdue University. The title of this program is called The Flying Clevis. Now, Doc, invariably things get stuck, and from the farm, I remember the walk of shame. I got stuck with the tractor, and I had to walk to get someone to come and help me. I had to get the chain. It was a point of failure.
And you probably didn't want your father to be the one that you got help from.
Absolutely did not. Then there's the other circumstance where a friend is stuck on the side of the road in the snow or the mud or something else, and you're called on to help. So you want to come to the rescue. Well, there's a right way and a wrong way to remove something that's stuck. There's a right procedure, there's right equipment, and there's a lot of wrong ways. And your experience says a lot of people are more than willing to share the time that it almost didn't go right.
Correct. And that's why we call it the Flying Clevis. When things fly and things break and they go through windshield, and you could just hear the story after story of the story in idiotics. About 30% of the people have had these things come loose and go flying.
Now, just because you have a vehicle and just because you have some sort of a strap or a chain or a cable doesn't necessarily mean you're qualified to try to pull something down.
That's correct. But we're all qualified because I always got a chain in the back of the truck, and that chain, boy, that sucker has pulled everything out. It's my grandpa's log chain, and that's a good chain, man. You can see the links are all bent. It is held up.
So let's just say that we don't have a truck, but we do have a car and we have a tree and we want to move something. Can we see the video?
We can. So there's different ways of, in this case, we're going to do a little tree trimming. Only in America, Jeff, this is ingenuity. These folks have got to be, have a little bit of farm genetics in them because, you fix what you can with what you got. This should be an Olympic sport, right?
I'm thinking there's some sort of lubrication involved here.
It could be. We may see lots of lubrication during the course of this one here, but eventually nothing bad happens. The chain breaks and the limb stays up. So, and all joking aside, and it doesn't seem like much, but, you think of a strap being tied between something that's stuck and you're pulling. Man, is there some tension here. Mm-hmm. And that's our concern. So you had a good observation.
This is the cab of what I would believe to be a tractor, and I would think we're looking through the back, and the cabs that I'm familiar with has a glass right here. Yes. Actually a glass in the back and a glass in the front. This doesn't have a glass on either side.
No, it doesn't, but it has little pieces of glass. You can see here a little bit on it.
The Flying Clevis.
This is the Flying Clevis that came through, and if you're lucky, it goes to your side. We've had people to say they heard it go by their ear. If you're unlucky, it hits you right in the back of the head, and you don't come away from that one.
And this starts from choosing the right equipment, the right tools, and the right circumstance.
And it's a pretty simple set of procedures to follow. And so we had a towing company work with me on this topic, on this idea, and we kind of have these 4 zones that you have to kind of mentally know going into it. Tow zone, stuck zone, danger, and clear zone. And what I want to do, Jeff, is work through each one of those bullet points, and you'll see again it'll make sense for us here. So obviously, here is my truck stuck out in a back road somewhere. Got some, whatever that is, 200 gallons of chemical in it. So that you've been asked to unstick that, pull that thing out so we can keep working.
I'm not sure which one stuck the most at this point.
Well,
this guy definitely is, but if this guy's coming to rescue him, now we got 2.
Now we got 2. So you start looking at what we have to do, and again, it's pretty simple. Get a chain, hook it up, pull them, and you're done. Mm-hmm. Well, when you work through this, when we look at this tow zone, you've got to be large enough to start with. I mean, you look at this guy. Was this guy here ever going to pull this?
Well, you think if it's a single axle trailer, maybe, but this is 3 axles and a semi-trailer, and the transmission held up, but the tow strap didn't.
But in this case, yeah, the chain broke, right? So, and then the second one is, am I big enough? So sometimes you're going to say, man, I'm not big enough. It ain't going to happen. Mm-hmm. You can pull all you want. Not going to happen. The second one is, if you think about how wreckers do and why they have their arms like this on it, when they want to pull up, Jeff. And the idea was if I'm flat into the ground, I'm pulling into the ground. That ground ain't going to move. So if I can pull up a little bit, I can pull up and out, and it helps to break that loose. I don't care if it's just a few inch difference from this spot and that spot. If I can get up higher, I feel better about it.
This goes back to even tractor pulling. And one of the things when we've got an out of the field tractor pull is they'll lower the hitch so that they're pulling the sled directly on the dirt. If they're able to have a higher hitch point, then they can actually lift the front of the sled and get the weight started.
Same idea. Again, you can just go through example after example of this is just not here, but it's for all kinds of things that we do. So, am I big enough and can I pull up? That's all. The second one is a stuck zone.
This goes back to the original slide. This is the guy who was either getting help or coming to help, but I would think in any book of Webster's, this guy is qualified as stuck.
As stuck and ain't going nowhere.
No.
So, we have to know here is what's the weight. And again, even a good guess. And so I don't know what an empty truck would weigh. You got any idea?
I'm going to guess 1,500, 2,000 pounds.
Let's just 2,000, add another 200 times 10, I always say 10 pounds per gallon. So that's about, what, 2,000 plus your it's about 4,000 pounds, okay? So obviously, in a few minutes when we hook things up, I gotta have something here that I pull that can at least have the 4,000 plus a little bit more for safety. So, it's luck. So here we are. These boys are like playing in the mud.
Surely.
And so you'll watch them here. I don't know about you, Jeff, but if I'm going to drive through a mud hole, I think I want to hit that with a little bit of speed. All right, good job.
He's gone from being in the tow zone to being in the stuck zone.
That's correct. And now I got my skater board dude who's telling him to, I mean, obviously what does he know? He's buried. He's not going anywhere. Now, the difference is many different things here. So what he does, he just grabs the first strap. I mean, that's all they got. Because, you know, a strap, a chain, it'll all work. They're all the same. Now, once what he does, when he reaches up under here to pull this guy out, I mean, to get him hooked up, what's that back wheel? It's lucky that he's stuck, or he would have run him over. So he's going to hook him up the best he can. He's going to tell the guy to back up. And I'm going to guess, though I don't know, my guess is that it's going to cut on that bumper right there.
So he's actually pulling probably off of the frame of the vehicle, but the strap is coming across the bumper.
That's correct. That's correct. Now, for most of us, the kiss of death is when something moves. When something moves, what does that tell us? Get up a little closer and just wang it good.
So,
And he did. And once the guy kind of quit shaking a little bit, can you see the hole in the back of that vehicle?
there was a Flying Clevis.
That was a flying piece of metal. In this case, there is a woman in the passenger seat and her husband, boyfriend, whoever, in the other side. Can you see the clevis is right between them?
That's called lucky.
That's called luck. Okay? And an inch or two one way or another, then one of them would have been either seriously hurt, putting into a nursing home for life, and or being killed. I'm not sure which is worse. Now, we said that truck, if we said 2,000 fully loaded, another 2,000, 4,000, but there's another hidden weight that I'm going to have to pull against, and that is how deep am I buried, and it has to do with suction. This is a good example here, Jeff. You ever walked in a field and walked right out of your boots?
I remember feeding livestock, and in the winter when there was the mud and then the
good stuff,
and being a young guy, and I grew fast, Fred. So when they were buying boots, usually they would buy a size bigger because you're going to grow into them.
Yeah.
So invariably you're coming through the feedlot and you get, it's not the slushy, it's that sticky mud.
Yep.
And you're standing in it, and one foot is out and the other one is back, and the back foot comes out.
That's correct. Now that's suction. And I did not know how powerful that was.
I did because I had a muddy foot
Now, you had
with
more than
stuff on it.
Yeah, that's right. You had
and
more
you're not,
than.
and you're not going to get out.
You
You're just
betcha.
not going to come out of
Yeah.
that situation because, number one, it's not the fact of the strength. Again, it's the suction. It has sealed around you.
That's correct. Now, it happens with equipment. You can give all these examples. So if we talk with boots, the guy got a piece of equipment. A friend of mine shot this with a drone. And you can see the equipment, had a tractor trying to pull it, didn't have enough, so they had to call a record into it. They got the record into it, and it does look like that even the record stuck. But if you looked at this, it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look that heavy, but this is suction. Now, this is not OSHA approved. What you're about to see is not OSHA approved.
This guy has got worse than a boot problem.
I think so.
His whole body's stuck.
I don't know how he got out there, Jeff, but it's so.
This is not Dorf either, by the way. He is sunk almost to his waist in this sticky mud.
Yes.
And his friend with the excavator is trying to help him out.
Yeah, so.
Can't move.
So, but yeah, he'll pull himself out.
Yeah, just lift me up. Got to be trusting this crane operator.
So you can see he's going to pull. He thinks he can. That suction has got him down. I mean, it's a grown man, and he should be able to come out, but it doesn't work that way. So the only way to break that suction is to take him and anything around him. But
Do you trust me? Do you truly trust me?
Yeah, and I know he's thinking, I hope you're below my feet because I'm just waiting. And you can see what he's in. That suction is such a powerful force to add in. Now, I want to show you here is over here we have in this middle one here. Mm-hmm. This comes from Wreckmaster, and these are they work with the towing people, and they train the towing people, just like you and I work with agricultural people. That particular company trains those that tow. And what was interesting, how they do it, is if you are right here, tire depth, mm-hmm. tire depth at how much? 70, 3/4 more of the weight. Mm-hmm. If you are up to the wheel depth, they said 100%, you're going to double basically what you're pulling to account for the suction.
So if this was that 2,000-pound truck with 2,000 pounds of payload,
yes.
4,000 pounds, and if I'm at tire depth,
yes.
I'm going to add to whatever strap or clevis,
yes.
0.75
That's correct.
more. So
That's correct.
that would be, I would need at least 7,000 pounds to be able to lift that out. Now, if I'm at the wheel, which is 100%.
I'll back up here. That's what we're talking about. It doesn't look that bad, but that's wheel depth.
If this was that truck, we don't want to estimate
sure.
the weight of this vehicle. If this was that red truck that was stuck at 4,000 pounds, I'm adding 100 weight. So now I need a clevis, strap, chain, other that will go to at least 8,000 pounds even at wheel depth.
So let's say even that's 30,000 pounds. I would add wheel depth. I double it up. You're looking at something with 60,000 pounds. That's incredible. To me, that's incredible.
That's a tremendous
amount of stress that we're going to put on something here in a couple minutes. And then if you're buried like that, I guess the best thing is just leave it.
The guy with the excavator, go find him because you're not going to pull this out and keep the machine intact. I mean, the other thing to keep about is, yes, I want to get out, but second of all, this machine costs money.
Yes.
And you can't afford to damage this machine. So irregardless of whether you have a strap that's heavy enough or not, let's protect the machine.
We had one that Clevis came off inside and banged around on the inside the cab and busted all the computers as it was just beating everything up. And I can't remember how many tens of thousands of dollars of loss that was just from that Clevis. So my general rule of thumb now is when I'm stuck, I double up whatever my weight is. I think doubling is, when I can pull it out of tire and wheel depth, I'm going to double it, and that gives me some sense of what I need. This is why it's important to actually dig around the tires to break the suction. Now, Jeff, we're men and we don't do that. We'll break every chain there is or strap, then we'll decide we have one left, then we'll do a little dig in here.
Back to our buddy that was stuck in the dirt. The first thing that the excavator operator tried to do was dig beside him and break the suction.
That's correct.
And he couldn't get close enough to him to do that. So in this situation, if it's just this implement or this tool or a tractor or other, you want to preserve it. So if you can break that suction before you start pulling, you increase your chances for success.
Because I have less stress on whatever I'm using to pull. That's right. So am I big enough? Can I get higher? Can I estimate the weight of what's stuck plus double it up for suction? And then comes the danger. You know, you hear these stories, and she's called the angel of heaven. So one of my ag retailers got stuck. He calls back in the office. The boy comes out with another sprayer to do it, to get him out. The Clevis breaks, comes back into the cab, Jeff, and hits him right here and severs an artery. The man is bleeding to death. What would you do? And I ask this question to lots of people, what would you do? And you hear different stories. Well, what the guy did, he took a coat, he put it into where he was bleeding, and lucky the guy was not unconscious. So the guy's actually holding it to keep from bleeding to death. He pulls out his cell phone, and the cell phone's not working there. He has to go up on top of the road. He gets a cell signal. He calls in 911, and one of the technicians is off that day, and she has her radio on. It's a series of luck. And she says, well, he's right down the road from me. So on her day off, she goes down there and gives him aid, which saved his life. So you had conscious, bleeding, but it didn't bleed out, finally able to get a cell phone, and finally somebody that came to help him because she had her radio on.
And all of this tragedy is not because the vehicle got stuck. It's because in the rescue attempt, we used the wrong equipment in the wrong procedure.
Say that again. That's not bad.
It wasn't because someone made a mistake and got stuck. That happens.
Everybody gets stuck.
But the fact that we used the wrong equipment, used it the wrong way, we invited mishap.
You betcha. I couldn't have said it any better. So let's look at that in this danger zone. I got it right in the middle. We have various things that we can use, from chains to the cables, the tow to recover, and then these things that we hook things together with.
Now hold on just a second, because I'm looking at words here. Here's tow ropes, here's recovery straps.
Yes.
And I've heard about tow straps, but I've never heard of recovery straps. Is there a difference?
Oh, it's a huge difference, Jeff, and we'll come to that. But tow is what you do when you're towing a down vehicle on the road, and I'm just pulling them down the highway. Doesn't require a lot of strength. It doesn't give, because you don't want it. It's just one solid strap or rope. A recovery is meant for, we call that the old days the jerk straps. That's made totally different than these, totally different.
Just wanted to point that out here before we start looking at some of these connecting devices.
Because we always say tow straps, tow ropes, and that has specific meanings. So let's look first of all on the chains. These chains were never meant to jerk on, because which is kind of stupid, I got two trucks going to try to unstick one, they're playing in the mud, and you're going to see both of them put the power on it and jerk on it. Did you see it break and come back across?
Yes, so we saw two vehicles there, and you thought one was pulling the other out. The answer is no. Those two were trying to rescue the buddy, and he has passed tire depth, he has passed wheel depth, and they're snapping a chain.
That's correct, and they snapped the chain because they jerked on it. Now, all of these chains, none of them's meant to jerk on, but so there's grades, and we've talked about that in past of these legacy series. And so we'll just use this one. Here is a grade 43 3/8. So what is that on?
Here's a 3/8, and I'm at grade 30.
Yeah.
I'm at 10,600 pounds.
So this is at grade 43. What do you have?
At grade 43, I am at 16,200 pounds.
Now here I got a grade 70 chain, and let's say it's a 1/2 inch chain. I don't know. Let's just say 1/2 inch.
1/2 inch, grade 70, I'm at 45,200.
Okay, so everything has got a rating, this chain and this hook. So if I had this chain and that hook, based on what we described, what would I use as my magic number?
I'm going to use the lowest number of those.
That's
because the weakest link.
That's correct. So, got to know something about it, but you know what? I ain't worried about it. I got a good chain. I got Grandpa's log chain back in my truck. I pulled everything out with this chain. Now, you look at this chain, and do you see anything? Is it a chain or many chains cobbled together.
Well, if you look at this really closely, I'm going to notice that this hook is a whole lot bigger than some of these links. And this one link right here stands out to me, that look at how thin it is compared to some of the heavier links that are inside.
Yeah, look at this one. And in fact, what they've done is cobbled together multiple chains. And this chain has been used. You can see it stretched, and you can see an illegal link here hooked up. So this is the kind of garbage, and this is how people kill themselves. This is how people end up in nursing homes, fed out the rest of their lives. This is how people miss their opportunity to see their kids growing, because this old chain here is going to be under a lot of stress here.
That's a bolt.
That's what.
Holding a clevis.
That's just holding it on. Look at this one. None of these are just pictures I take out of back of pickup trucks, and I can almost tell you this story without knowing it. He was about that short, needing to make the hook up, so he just puts in a bolt to give him that length, and then he's going to just jerk on it. Okay, people do strange things, as we saw the guy taking the tree down with the car. So the chain is know the strength and then can't jerk on it. Cables is the same thing. I mean, cables ain't nothing but what? Coat hangers?
Strands of wire.
Strands of wire.
Braided together.
And in fact, you were talking about on the water, skiers.
For the recreational water skier, that's one. But in competitive water skiing, they use an official tow rope and handle that's meant to withstand the stress. And I think you'll find even of the recreational skiers, if you're trying to use a ski rope with that inner tube, it's probably not going to hold up as well, because eventually that tube is going to pelican and get down under the water, and then you're going to be tying knots in your rope to try to go. There's different levels of stress. And
same thing here. Exactly the same thing here. Now the key here is this piece right here. And I call it a horse collar. It goes by different names. And if you looked at this piece right here, if you have cable and you don't have this piece on it, look at it right here. If I don't have that piece, when I'm pulling up on that hook, what's it going to do to those cables?
Well, the inner strands then are going to be connected to this hook, and at that point, then those could begin to break. If you have this collar that keeps the cable intact, so you're pulling on the sum of the strands as opposed to putting some of the strands.
That's correct. And you know that if you bend a coat hanger, does it unbend?
No.
No. And the same thing with these wires here. So we're looking, that's a $5 piece that can actually save a lot of wear and tear. And if you're looking here, again, am I big enough? Yep.
He's pulling up.
And I'm pulling up, which is a good thing. And so you could see this complete stress that we're going to have on this system as I'm pulling up. It's going to be tremendous.
The trajectory of that angle, the trajectory of this angle, if this breaks here, then you have all of this slack and it's coming straight up.
That's correct. And that's just the way it is. It's extremely dangerous. Though we don't treat it like that, we treat it like a routine, something we're going to do. Now, here is what you were asking the question, and I'm probably like you, we always called it tow rope. A tow rope and a tow strap comes with hooks, usually already built in. You see that?
Sure.
Now, notice that there's a difference. They look alike. They're all always yellow. These are happen to be yellow. Notice that I cover recovery here and tow here. And notice that on this package, it comes with hooks already on it. This one doesn't have. All you're getting is a recovery strap.
3-inch by 30 foot, and I can see braking strength at 27,000 pounds.
Correct. Yep. Now, a tow rope I had to learn was this. It's all I'm doing is towing, like in this example, a down truck pulling with another. I don't need a lot of strength. I don't need very much in this example here. All I need is I want something tight. I don't want something that has a lot of slack in it.
Just a little bit of elasticity so that I'm not snapping the guy behind me, but I can keep going.
But I can keep going.
Sure.
That's all that is. And there's not a lot of strength to them because they don't need to have the strength. Now, a recovery, the word recovery is the key here. These are designed to pull out pieces of stuck equipment, and they don't come with things are already attached, built on.
Now this one's probably not new, but still it's a design of a recovery
That's
strap.
correct. That's correct. So I got a strap here and a rope here. In the old days, we called them jerk strap, jerk ropes, because what you do on these is if something is stuck, it gives. It's like a rubber band. You're going to pull your vehicle, the stuck vehicle here, you're going to pull it out, and then you come to a point it won't stretch anymore. Then what do?
Stop.
You stop. And what's the idea behind that?
The elasticity is going to do the job.
That's correct. And I've had guys in mines out west tell me that it's worked on their big piece of equipment. It always worked. I don't have to jerk on them either, though they're called jerk straps, but it would be better just to wait and let it let it work. So this one happens to be 15,000 pounds.
35,000.
35,000. Remember that truck? 2 and 2 is 4. We double it to make it 8. So would that one work?
Absolutely.
That would work. As you get into bigger and bigger piece of equipment, these are some of the straps, 110,000. And as you get into some of these wrecker services, they got these humongous as they're trying to get these semis and other things unstuck. Now, whether it's whatever you're using, we'd like to see people here get rid of the clevis. And the reason, if you look here, what's holding that clevis together?
Holding the clevis is the pin.
That's correct. And if that pin goes,
the clevis goes.
that's correct.
Flying.
And there is a flying clevis. We've had examples of these been flung a long way, hitting people. One of them where an arm was partially almost decapitated, and lucky enough the surgeon could actually put it back together. These have hit people in the head. And so it's, again, obviously a dangerous thing.
So we talked about a difference between a recovery strap and a tow strap.
Yes.
And of the instances we had before, the recovery strap, its maximum load was 33,000 pounds.
Yes.
And the tow strap was only at about 3,000 to 5,000.
Yep.
But now you've shown a difference here of a clevis and a shackle, and they are not the same.
They're not the same. So here is what we typically use. A shackle, and we used to call them in the trade a screw clevis, until I was told they're not a clevis, it is a shackle. And notice that these, instead of having a simple pin that keeps them together, they're actually screwed in.
This side of the hole is larger to compensate for the diameter of the pin. The other end is a bit smaller but threaded, so this actually becomes one piece.
That's correct. And it's a huge difference. And they have ratings just like everything else. And so a shackle is the way to go to try to lessen that thing from breaking loose. Now, so this is why we typically like the recovery, again, to use it, a recovery strap, recovery rope. They'll come with their own shackles. You can see here, I think you got one up there as well. They're all arranged to work together. They're all rated properly. If I had my druthers, every shop would have one of these, and I would say for the largest piece of equipment. So largest piece of equipment times 2, 100%. And if I could do it, have a strap for that, I'd have a strap to pull anything else that I had.
One other point I note here is this is not laying in the back of the pickup truck. This is inside a case, and it's protected from sun and other solvents that might land on it that would affect the integrity of the
dirt,
device.
you name it. In fact, a lot of times what happens, these things, any of these will break down, is when you get sand that gets inside of these fibers and it rubs, and that's how you end up cutting strands. Now, we do all this because this is what we're trying to prevent.
The flying clevis.
The flying clevis. Now, this looks bad. It is bad, but you know, if you ever cut your head, then it bleeds. It bleeds, just pours. This guy they were pulling him out, and it was 2 semis that were stuck up in the snow, and he just happened to have his head down like this when it came through and out the windshield, and it just grazed the top of his head. If he had just, by luck, had his head up, it would have killed him. So, it's just luck. And we'd like to remove some of the luck. How we do it is to use the right tools, get rid of the clevis, go with the shackles, know something about the ratings, but these are 2 very simple things that could help us. So the first one is sharp edges. We had a farmer last year that was killed in Indiana. Wasn't stuck. It looked like he was right on top of the ground, but he was just sliding. So they pulled on it, and it cut like we saw in that movie. That bumper cut it, flipped it back, and hit him right in the head. And again, these things are flying like missiles. So instead of just going out there and jerking, if you can tighten it up a little bit and go and just look, Jeff, to see, is this on a bumper? Is it on a nut? Is it on something that's sharp on either end? Then do something. Put something in between that and whatever it's stuck on. Again, floor mat, a jacket, anything. Because once it's tight, it's going to be like a pair of scissors on it. The other one is this putting something in the middle. And what we're showing here is, if you can see this, I think it's probably was that coat jacket he's got right out here. If I can put something like a floor mat, a heavy jacket, a pair of boots, anything that I have to put over another chain over the middle, what happens when this thing breaks? What's going to happen here?
If that's not in place, it's going to fly up.
That's correct. And if it's in place, it's going to drive it down, and then you'll end up hitting your truck, but not going through glass. And then kind of simple things is, can I protect the windshield? Usually not, but I never thought about that, putting the toolbox up.
If I happen to be the one who's, in this case, I'm trying to assist someone else, you've got a metal toolbox there, raise the lid. If the Clevis were to fly,
Yes.
it's going to hit the lid of the toolbox and not come through the windshield.
Now, you brought that up a couple of times, Jeff, and I guess it's up to every company has their own policies. Most companies say you are not to pull out anybody that's not part of the company. In the old days, we want to help. So today we got cell phones. If somebody's stuck that's not part of the company, surely help them. I mean, help, especially if it's cold, get them into a warm vehicle. But you should be able to call a wrecker and wait on that wrecker to do the job, because I've got plenty of examples where you stop to help me, something breaks, and you're going to sue me, make me replace what's broken. So most people will tell you this is dangerous enough, we shouldn't be pulling other people out as part of the ag retailer. What you do as a person is obviously up to you. So, am I big enough? Can I get high? Account for the weight plus the being stuck. The danger zone is that middle. Don't jerk. Put something over the middle. What else do we have here? What were
The
some
one
other
thing of
tips?
the danger zone that I think we would point out is that we don't need spectators. Probably don't need people close by watching to see if you're successful in pulling the person out.
In fact, that's why we have the clear zone. But you know, as soon as you get stuck, everybody and his brother shows up. That's part of the entertainment of the day. So probably a good thing is to always have extra shovels, so you can give them a shovel. And it's okay, you guys are here, help me dig out. And then you'll get rid of everybody except for the one guy that wants to help you, and then you wanted him to go too. So what happens here, that was why we sort of did that hooking and pulling. So this guy's stuck, he's buried, he's got a rope. And you know, somebody's taking some movies here for us.
He is past the wheel, he is past the tire and past the wheel and probably sitting on frame. I know he's sitting on bumper here.
So it looks like they're at a deer stand somewhere.
Got a long rope.
Yeah, I don't know where they get the rope
They
at.
got a
That's pretty
long rope.
impressive. I think they're in the same county, Jeff. I'm not sure. I can't quite vouch for that. But if you notice here, I think they're pulling on the tow hook. This is a horrible mistake. These balls are only rated for about 3,500.
So he's just hooked over the
That's
ball.
correct.
Just hooked over the
The
ball.
hitch is probably worth 7,500 pounds. That's all they're worth. And nobody's hurt, but you saw how quick it popped, and it came flying out, and it completely took off. I mean, the pressure on this is just amazing. The stress on metal. This piece of rope came up here. I had a guy 2 years ago, his father showing his son had a rope. The rope broke, hit him in the chest and killed him, Jeff. And rope, straps, chains, there's the rest of it.
Wow.
Wow, is just, and again, if that rope would have hit somebody, that would have been the end of it. So are there some common sense kinds of things here? we just got to quit being cowboys here. People get hurt, and I've heard some horrendous accidents and things I wouldn't even repeat here on the camera because they're so bad. It's because people just don't take the time to realize how dangerous it is. We can do it, and it's not that how'd you phrase it? It's not that we're stuck. What was your comment? Not we're stuck, but
it's not the fact whether you get stuck or not. It's how you choose to recover from the situation. And the point that I hear from you on this are two words that come together, and that's connecting equipment.
yes,
You know, you would make sure you had the right size wrench for the bolt that you were using. You would make sure that you had the right size tractor for the implement that you were pulling. You would make sure you had the right equipment. But somehow in this melee of being the rescue cowboy, we lose that common sense
correct.
of choosing the right equipment.
because we don't view it seriously. But I want to repeat: 1/3 of all of my auditors across the country have had change of stuff to break. 1/3. That means 1/3 of the lucky people, and in most of that 1/3, Jeff, people will say, "Well, everybody." I always ask, "Did everybody go home?" And usually in a crowd, 30%, 1 or 2 of the people never went home, or today they're in a nursing home, or they're unable to work. And look at the difference on luck. So you can see here that he's buried down. He's not going anywhere. Your comment about we don't need all these people, I don't need this guy here to do anything. He's not doing nothing for me.
He does have his hat on backwards, so he's serious. Tow vehicle's there.
Yep.
We're hooked here.
And what I want you to do, Jeff, is to focus here on
The hood.
right on the hood. And this guy here, he would be gone. There he comes.
He's got the signal.
Did you see it?
It was a quick snap.
Yep.
And here is the Flying Clevis. Fortunately, it was stopped by the dash and the windshield that didn't come on through to the driver.
That's right. But just take a look and think about that position. Most of those, a lot of dashes got a ramp, like a little ramp to them. If that would have came in, it hit that guy in the skull, and that's sheer luck. So let's put all this together.
I want to give this fellow the benefit of the doubt. That looks like a sinkhole to me.
Okay,
So he's in the field, he's doing his job, he's operating, he's on schedule. It's a wet spot here, but this looks tragic. He is fully loaded and spraying a crop.
Yes, and that's the problem we have is when we do get stuck, means we're working, which means if I don't get it unstuck quickly, then I'm behind even more. So how do I help myself? What I do is I'm going to unload it to reduce that weight. I'm going to get my guys to dig around the tires, even a piece of equipment to try to loosen up some of that.
The backhoe's in place.
The backhoe's in place to do it all. I've got something that appears on the surface to be large enough to be able to pull it. And there's something here that to me is still pretty important. What happened to all of those people?
They moved away.
Yep. And the guy that I got this from says they were all behind this vehicle. I love that. I mean, I don't need to be there. This guy here is in great danger, and it's just luck. Where will it break? Pretty easy, Jeff. It seems easy, at least.
Common sense is always easy in retrospect, and that's why the title of this program is The Flying Clevis. So when accidents occur and when you're stuck, take the time to choose the proper connecting equipment and take those safety procedures to make sure that being stuck is the only bad thing that happened that day. With Dr. Fred Whitford from Purdue University, I'm Jeff Nally for the Legacy Series.